So today we thought we'd have a discussion about focus. So basically I received a message from one of our followers with a bit of a discussion topic about focus, whether it should be taught, whether it should be more natural, and focusing on the look or watch me command that obviously a lot of us use, and its pluses, minuses, etc. So, Lynn, do you want to go first?
I will crack off. Obviously we've had a discussion on this many a time, and we've both said that it's something that experienced handlers, trainers encourage from their dogs from day one when they pick them up as puppies. We do lots of engagement games with our dogs to create that bond between them and us, so that they know that checking in with us, paying attention to us, which is really what focus is a good thing, and it's rewarded. That's great, I think, if you have a person that is experienced and knows what they're doing, or has perhaps picked up a trainer that encourages that from day one.
Yeah.
The problem can be when you pick up a rescue dog that's older, or perhaps a dog that's not had such fantastic past, or you have a handler that's less experienced.
Yeah.
Then you might need to do some work on building that focus between your dog and you, and giving them an exercise to teach that. Especially us as trainers, when you get an older dog come into classes, or you go and do a one-to-one, quite often you have to help the owner to build that focus between the dog and them. And with an older dog with a history, sometimes it's not as easy through engagement games. So teaching that, watch me, look, whatever cue you want to call it, is better. Obviously there's lots of pluses to teaching that exercise.
I think so.
As you know.
I think it has its place, but I think it depends how it's used. I think there are some trainers and some people who use it incorrectly.
Yeah.
And it's always about waving a bit of food in your face, or waving a bit of food to get your dog to look at you. Personally, when I teach it, I would only use a lure for sort of about 3 or 4 goes.
Yeah.
And after that, a lure wouldn't actually be part of that. I will obviously reward it to make it stronger. But I think a couple of things. If you've got a dog who stares a lot, so at other dogs and things, or other people, or something like that. If you've got a dog who, which we might call overreactive about things, they don't always make good choices.
Yeah.
So the reality is that we haven't all got a dog that makes great choices and automatically looks to us for guidance. Otherwise, if we did, there wouldn't be so many reactive dogs out there.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't have it. So I certainly, if I'm doing reactive work with dogs, will get the owners to teach a cue to ask them to look away. Now, it's really important though that people understand, and trainers understand, that from my point of view, it's not about, if you look at me, we can stop you from looking at anything else. For me, it's not about distraction. It's not about stopping the dog from looking at the environment. It will be that if the dog has started to go from a looking at another dog, for example, and has gone into staring mode,
yeah,
where now the brain is now considering whether they need to make a reaction, barking, lunging, whatever, having a cue that means the owner can cut that off.
Yeah.
And the dog looks away. Now for me, it's only got to look away for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Be told how clever it is. It can absolutely go back to looking at the dog.
Yeah.
No problem at all. But for me, if dogs have looked at something for more than a couple of seconds, when it's something like people or dogs, that's when the brain is now processing the need for a reaction of some sort.
Yes.
Whether it be excitement and lunging and trying to get over to them, whether it be barking and lunging because they don't like them, they're frightened of them, whatever. So for me, having a cue is I always teach my dogs a cue, but it doesn't mean that I walk around getting them to look at me the whole time.
No.
They just do it when I ask, which is just randomly when I need it once I've taught it.
Yeah.
obviously, like you say, you're still going to teach natural. We still want dogs to naturally learn to check in, and then there are lots of engagement games or natural check-in games that are great, that help the dog, and growing your bond is going to naturally create that anyway.
Yeah.
But as you say, being people that run classes and being people that do one-to-ones and done it for a lot of time, we know that our clients aren't necessarily going to be able to do all of those things. They don't naturally, their dog is sometimes a bit switched off from them.
Yeah.
Or a puppy that is quite sort of independent and everything and isn't really worried about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So this does give them a little intro into have a bit of focus, but I do like to make it clear to people it isn't about walking along in a heel position staring at me. That's not what we're trying to get the dog to do the whole time.
Yeah.
Because absolutely you're not letting them be a dog, be in the environment, and be able to take in the world. So it isn't about stopping dogs looking at the world, and I think that's the thing. I think if you're watching a trainer who teaches it where the dog is supposed to look at the person all the time, or you're seeing people just using it all the time to avoid situations, to me they've either been taught incorrectly, or that owner has misunderstood it, or that owner is using it too much. So there is a big difference. I do think it's a valuable tool, and I teach it in all my puppy classes, but I'm not luring food for very long at all. Literally 4 or 5, a few little lures to get it started, and that's it. The lure goes, becomes rewarded, the hand signal goes after a short period of time, and it's just a verbal cue. And it just means, quickly look round at me, let's break off your interaction with something else before it becomes more inappropriate.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a really good point that you picked up about the, hopefully it should build this natural ability for our dogs to have a little ask for help if they need to eventually.
Sure.
So, the Muppet obviously was taught a watch me cue. She will be off lead, moseying about, but every now and again you just see her look over her shoulder and check in, and that's what it leads to. It leads to this, our dogs just checking in with us to make sure that you're still there, everything's okay, etc. And also for my dogs, all of them that I've had, it builds to, if they're on lead, so they haven't got their natural ability to deal with things, to move away, etc., they will check in with me if they see something they're not too sure about.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's okay comment for a human being. So, if you was a bit worried about something, I'd say, it's okay, it's fine. And with my dogs, if they're saying not too sure about that, whatever it is that's coming towards me, it's their way of building that, it's okay. And if it's not okay, I might move out of the way or cross the road or, turn around and walk back the other way. I might help them out to deal with that situation if whatever's coming towards us isn't okay. But most of the time, it's like, okay, on we go, and we'll do it that way. But I think it's a hard one. I think it's...
Well, I think if we lived in an ideal world, and everybody understood a dog, like everyone who has a dog. So how many billions of people have got a dog? Yeah, in this country across the world, and the percentage I'm sure of people who actually understand about building the connection, the relationship with the dog, will be a very small percentage.
Yeah.
And obviously we all know that in the dog world, it's more about eye contact can often be seen as a bit negative in the dog world. So I do think it has another added bonus of, for some dogs, letting them know that eye contact is a good thing. And actually, when I've got a young dog, once I've sort of taught a cue, then what I'll do is, I don't know, say they want to go out the back door, and I go to the back door, put my hand on the handle, and I just wait for them to look up at me. And the first few times I might ask them to, but then after that I won't ask them to.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to them is, if you want something, checking in with me
Yeah.
is the best way that you might get it.
Yeah.
You might not, because you can't always have everything you want like everybody else. But so I have found it useful to teach a cue first. But I also wouldn't be anti anybody who didn't want to teach that cue and wanted to do it through other types of check-in games. But I think when you've got a set of clients coming into classes who, let's face it, a lot of them never had a dog before, they don't really understand about it, they don't really want to go into the ins and outs of the worlds of dog training. They just literally want to know how to have a fairly sociable dog, in society. I don't think teaching them a cue is harmful, but certainly, if you're just luring all the time. So the messages I got was more about when it's watched and it's just a load of food going into your face and just constant waving food around and not letting that's the impression I got, was not letting the dog
make choices,
see life and make choices. Of course, that for me, that's using it in the wrong way then. That's an extreme use of it, the same as you'll have an extreme use of lots of things. You can turn anything really from a good thing into a bad thing. If you are using extreme levels of it. So it definitely depends how it's used. I think we've just both agreed that we personally would teach it and do teach it, but certainly for me it's not about stopping the dog from seeing the environment at all.
And I think it's a really good way if you teach it and build it right in the early stages of owning the dog or having the dog from a puppy. It builds onto them checking in with you and just checking, can they, can't they? So, Muppet obviously loves the water. For us, we found it really useful because she will go to a riverbank, stop and check in with us to make sure it's okay for her to go in that river, which obviously in the winter when the tides are high, etc., or it's icy,
safety thing.
We don't necessarily want her going in the river, so it's then either okay, go on, in you go, or not today, this way, and she'll come away. So I think it has lots of really good uses if you build that, exactly like you said, if you check in with me, actually
you might get what you want.
Yeah, you might get what you want, and you'll usually get something, especially in the early days. It's important that they get something positive, even if they don't necessarily get what they want. So we would use a ball to reward coming away from the river, a little game with a ball, rather than going into the river to begin with. Now we can just say, no, this way, come on, and move her away. But it's important that we say, fantastic for checking in and asking, and you can't have that today, but I'm going to reward you, which is obviously where we use, as you said, it's important to reward, even if you're not luring. You don't want to be luring forever, saying, watch me. But when they make that choice, it's important that we reward the dog for doing the right thing. So, I think it's I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing to teach. It's a good thing to teach. Not necessarily just for reactive dogs or dogs that want to do that, perhaps make bad choices all the time. It's I call it a get out of jail free card. If you've taught it well and the dog really understands what it means, if you need to use it, the dog says, okay, I'll take my focus off of that and I'm with you instead, and that's what I reward. So it's personally I like a check-in command, or cue, sorry, should we say, check-in.
That's a whole other discussion about the fact that we're supposed to make words sound softer anymore. I don't think there's anything wrong with the word command, because we all just know what it means. But that's a whole other discussion. I think
discussion for another day. Words.
So I think really what we're saying is it is personal choice. There's nothing wrong with it if taught correctly. And I do think that not all dogs make great choices, so it is useful. Certainly I use it in a lot of my reactive work as a very small part of it. Not well, if I just get them to look at you, they won't see anything.
That's right.
It's really important that people don't think it's about distraction. For me, that could almost be a whole debate in itself about distraction. For me, distraction is not a training technique.
No.
Distraction is something, it says what it is on the tin.
Yeah.
You are basically pretending nothing's going on somewhere by distracting your dog, which is fine in an emergency case or a situation. It is not a training technique. So anyone says that they're going to use distraction to help you deal with your dog, as far as I'm concerned, they're not dealing with your dog. It's an avoidance technique.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole different discussion.
That's another
So
discussion.
hopefully we answered that for you. And you've obviously got to make your own choices as to whatever trainer you are. And there's no wrong or right. For me, if you don't want to teach that type of thing and you'd rather do it in different ways, perfectly fine, not a problem.